Hello and welcome. My name is Joe, and I am building an off grid homestead on 5 acres in the high desert of Arizona. And today I'd like to talk about my rabbit colony. I chose to raise rabbits because rabbits are a good starter animal. The two best starter animals are chickens or rabbits. And at that time of year, chicks were only available by mail, and I wasn't really set up to receive them by mail yet. So rabbits it is. Rabbits are pretty easy to raise. They're small and don't take up much space. And they eat grass. So if you have plenty of grass, you can save a lot on feed costs. They don't smell much, and they produce very high quality droppings for compost and gardening. And probably most important, they're very quiet. They're almost the exact opposite of chickens. I chose a colony setup for my rabbits. But at first, I didn't even know what that was called. I didn't even know there were options like that. But I was looking at the price of cages and I wondered, hey, maybe I can just make one big cage and save a little bit of money. After doing some research, I found all about colony rabbit. And it turns out the rabbits are much happier and healthier in a colony setting. And honestly, in my experience, I found that to be true. The one change I had to make was I had to adapt to a desert environment. It's just too hot for rabbits here. I was warned about that by the local breeders. I heard tips and tricks like giving them an ice pack to sit on, or a cold piece of tile to lay on, or just keeping them inside in an air-conditioned garage. But I decided to let rabbits be rabbits. They love to dig, and it's always a little cooler under the ground. I thought it was perfect, and it's really worked out. This is the rabbits' second summer, and they just spend all day sleeping underground and come out at night and perfectly happy. They also seem to have less health issues and parasites. I've seen my rabbits take a dust bath, which I think helps remove the parasites. Also, when they're allowed to interact with each other, they can groom each other. I remember on this particularly dusty day, one rabbit had a very red and swollen eye and mucus coming out and crusted over. And I thought, oh no, it's Snuffles. I'm going to lose all my rabbits. But another rabbit came over and noticed there was a problem and licked the eye clean and washed it for the other rabbit, and everything was fine. And I'm wondering, if they were isolated in cages, would that have happened? I think about things like bot flies. They land on the rabbit and lay their eggs in them. In a cage, a rabbit has nowhere to go. It can't run away, but it can in a colony. I also don't have problems with things like that. Maybe I'm just lucky, but I think it's the colony doing it. There's a million ways to do things. There's no right way or wrong way. Whatever works is what you should do. I try to let nature do the heavy lifting. I try to help out nature whenever I can, and at all costs stay out of her way. I hope you'll take some inspiration from my setup, but I have to warn you, this is pretty particular for the desert. A rabbit colony in Ohio is going to be much different than one here in southern Arizona. So you have to adapt to your own circumstances. It was a real learning process, but I'm getting the hang of it. I started out with 2 New Zealand rabbits I bought off of Craigslist. They were litter mates, brother and sister. It's not a good idea to breed closely related rabbits like that, but I figured it would be okay if I didn't make a habit out of it and did it just this once. They did well at first, and they adapted pretty quickly. They were pretty happy growing up together. But I think I let them breed a little too young. Not entirely sure, but I think the female was only 16 weeks or so when she got bred. It's recommended to wait until the rabbits are about 20 or 24 weeks. The rabbits were very friendly and cuddly, and I treated them like pets. Well, which was probably a mistake because the female died in childbirth, and I was pretty devastated at that. I guess that's a lesson to not make pets of your livestock. So I bought a new female rabbit. This time it was a Californian.
but that meant I had to wait another 16 weeks or more for her to mature. So that meant I had to keep them apart, and they weren't too happy about that. When I finally let them get together, the male wanted a little too much love, and he kind of harassed the female a bit. It gets better when you have more females. I guess male animals just have too much love for one female to handle, so it's better to have less males than you do females. But this new female gave birth to 8 beautiful little kits. I suspected she was pregnant all along, but I didn't know for sure until the kits were about 3 weeks old and finally came out of their den. All of the rabbits get along pretty well for the most part. Unfortunately, the male murders the other males when they get a certain age, so I'll have to be sure to separate any new male rabbits before that happens. Sometimes a rabbit or two will slip out the door as I'm coming and going. They just like to run around and explore a little bit, but they always come back. The rabbit pen is the only place there's any food or water. It's a good idea to bury a fence along the edge of the pen so the rabbits can't dig out. I didn't do that on this one, but I definitely will in the future.
The droppings make excellent compost. It just needs to be watered regularly. I haven't been keeping up with that, so I tried using it as mulch. Unfortunately, it attracted a lot of rodents. You know, apparently, rabbit droppings are very tasty. Rodents love it. My chickens eat it up completely. The neighbor's dog ate it. And even my goats love it. What? No. Nobody's going to think that. It's granola. See? Granola.
I feed the rabbits pellets. They're really not picky on brand or anything like that, so I feed them the cheapest one I can find. I supplement a few times a week with either alfalfa or fresh grass when I have it, or sometimes a little bit of sunflower seed. In the future, I'd like to try duckweed. I hear it's pretty nutritious and can be grown pretty cheaply.
At this point, I don't think raising rabbits is cheaper than just going to the store and buying meat. You know, boneless, skinless chicken breast is on sale for $1.99 a pound. Very hard to beat that. But I'm always looking for cheaper ways to do things. I think raising rabbits is a lot cheaper in places with a little more rainfall and they grow their own grass. I have about a total of 14 bunnies right now. I've harvested a few already, and I get about 2.5 pounds of pure meat per bunny. But I'm saving most of them to see which have the best genetics.
Rattlesnakes ate a few of the babies and killed 2 adults. Both of those adults died on the second time they got bit. Well, I guess that's natural selection, so maybe they were either too trusting, too curious, or just not smart. I'm hoping the surviving rabbits will breed children that are smart enough to avoid rattlesnakes.
Well, I've had rabbits for over a year now, and they all seem to be doing great. But I'll continue to raise them and experiment with different options and get better. Life is all about improvement. The lessons I have learned is that nature is really in charge. And everything just goes easier when we help nature instead of stand in her way. My rabbit setup is very low maintenance because I'm letting rabbits be rabbits. Well, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting. And I'll see you next time.